Oh, that's good, YouTube land. That weird clicker here. We're talking about it again. Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. I don't mean we're talking about the movie again. I mean, we're talking about Star Wars again. Because the last time I did one of these solo reviews was for The Last Jedi. But The Rise of Skywalker. I freaking loved it. Honestly, I was fanboying the whole time. The whole movie. I was just, oh my god. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But I'm having a hard time thinking of what I want to say, but there's so much. All right, so we have to start somewhere, and I guess we'll start with the opening crawl, because that's somehow important. It kind of sets the tone. I'll put this down. Sets the tone for the whole movie. Where let me. I have it right here. The dead speak. The galaxy has heard a mysterious broadcast. A threat of revenge. In the sinister voice of the late Emperor Palpatine. So yeah, the big thing in the movie, Palpatine. He is basically the main driving force of the whole movie. And there's so much in this. Like, there are nods to the prequels. There are so many fanboy moments of like homages to the original trilogy. There are somehow throwbacks to The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi in this. Like, oh. So basically, it starts after the crawl with Kylo Ren just killing people. Right away, killing people. Lightsaber out. He's looking for basically what I think they called it a wayfinder. It was a Sith holocron. It was basically a Sith holocron, which is my first instinct that they were taking the idea of expanding lore from the prequel trilogy, because freaking the original trilogy didn't talk about things like that, really, all that detail. Oh, they didn't really like. Okay, they talked about the thing in detail, but so I'm looking for what I'm saying. Excuse me. One thing I liked, they didn't tell you when the movie took place. They like there was no this took place right after The Last Jedi or think right after blah blah blah. It just started, and I think that worked. Being a little bit vague in that way worked because your mind tries to fill in the blanks of how long has it been, and I kind of like that because like not specifically telling us everything. So he finds this holocron. It sends him to, well, from the outside, it looks like just a giant, like not a sheet of ice, but like, let me find the planet's name. If I can, if it's not, no, come on. Oh, okay. It says, oh yeah, in the movie they say basically it's a year after the Battle of Crate, so a year has passed in everything. Oh, he's on a Wayfinder. That's what they call it. Okay. And he was in Mustafar. He was in the Mustafar system. So right there, there's another nod to the prequels. And the planet he finds is Exegol, or whatever. I didn't want to do that. No, man, come on. Exegol. So what he finds is Palpatine. More specifically, a clone of Palpatine. This is another thing. The movie goes so hard to acknowledge the expanded universe. The clone of Palpatine, because if you've read the expanded universe, Palpatine did clone himself before his death multiple times to try and preserve his life. But those clones never really worked because he's way too strong in the dark side and like no body could handle it. So, and you could tell that was what they were going for with this version of Palpatine, because like you look at him and he's definitely not 100%. Like his eyes are glazed over or like whited out, so he looks blind. Like he's hooked up to a machine, so he really can't like go anywhere. But I like what, because Palpatine in this is as good as freaking original trilogy Palpatine. Like he's so manipulative. Like we even get the reveal that he made Snoke. Because as Kylo is walking through his giant room, there's like a tank where it looks like he was growing Snoke's, because there's multiple weird looking alien bodies in the tank, so it looks like he grew Snoke, because the clone of Palpatine really can't go anywhere from the looks of it. The machine stuck to his neck is probably something like that machine, and probably his connection to the dark side are what keeping him alive, as we see later near the end. But we're not going to get to there. We're not going to get there yet. So basically, everything Kylo's felt up to this point, everything that's manipulated him has been Palpatine, just like always, just like Anakin. Everything leads back to Palpatine. Palpatine. There's even a cool thing where Palpatine, I don't know if it's kind of mocking Kylo, but he goes through, he uses Snoke's voice, and he also uses Darth Vader's voice with the whole, as saying, everything is because of me, basically. And what Palpatine wants is Rey dead. At least that's what he says to Kylo. He says he wants Rey dead, and in exchange, he will give him basically a brand new empire to control. And he summons a legion of star destroyers out of the planet, out of Exegol. Basically what he refers to as the Last Order. Which, First Order, Order 66, Last Order. He's obsessed with order. That wasn't intended to be a joke, but it kind of works. So at the same time, or after that, we cut to Poe and Finn and Chewie, who apparently in the subsequent year have recruited more people and are on the Millennium Falcon going to some place to get some intel about the First Order. And it turns out there's a spy in the First Order ranks who gives them intel to help them. I think I'm trying to remember what the intel was, but that's not the point. The point of the intel is to say there's a spy within the First Order. And definitely, I'm trying to... There's so much in this movie that I'm like, I want to see it again because I can't remember everything that happened, so I'm probably going to miss stuff. But then, after that quick thing, after that, the First Order attack. They attack the Millennium Falcon, and they force them to escape. And how they escape is basically, I guess I'm going to use my lightsaber as an example. They hyper skip. So basically, he activates hyperspeed, jumps, and then deactivates it, like basically skipping to try and get away from the First Order, which is very dangerous. according to the movie, it takes a huge toll on the Millennium Falcon to the point where it gets back to their base and it needs repair, like it's on fire. Like it was not a good idea, but it was the last idea Poe had. So at that time, we also cut to Ray right afterwards, and there's a major difference between, let's say, Force Awakens Ray all the way to the Rise of Skywalker, where the first scene of Ray in the Rise of Skywalker is her upside down, floating in midair with a bunch of rocks around her. She's trying to connect to the spirits of Jedi's past. So, like, not anyone in specific, just the void, like, just all past Jedi's. Like, she's been training with Leia for a year. Leia, and it's actually confirmed that Leia has been training her. And apparently this is not completely a story point at all, but from what I read, they actually used unused footage from The Force Awakens for Carrie Fisher, R.I.P., because she died, I think, right before Last Jedi was released, or somewhere. She's been dead for a few years now. She did film some stuff, like she started filming this movie, I believe, before she died, but yeah, they had to. The payoff for this, I appreciate way more for Leia's character than, let's say, they killed her in The Last Jedi when Carrie Fisher actually died. Like, it's sad. Well, I'm not gonna spoil it yet. There are gonna be massive spoilers in this video, but I'm not gonna spoil what happens to yet. Okay. So Ray is training. She can't hear the voices of Jedi, and she decides they set up an obstacle course for her to run through. Like, there are so many callbacks to this, like her putting on the blaster helmet like Luke did in Episode 1 with the blind, trying to like trying to block the shots from the drone, like things like that. Like that was like fanboy. I was fanboying so hard at moments like that. Like, I'm happy to have a Star Wars movie that just wants to be a Star Wars movie. Honestly, if that's a weird thing to say, but like this movie felt like it wanted to be a Star Wars movie. Like it had, I'm getting it. Like it had some action. It had way more lightsaber fighting than either The Force Awakens or The Last Jedi. It had some space elements, but it saved that for the end. Like most of this movie is building to the very end, to the climax, which is you'd think you'd climax and then no, but it's moving basically incrementally to the climax, which is very near, like pretty much the end of the movie is the climax. So she's training, but she fails to block the blaster bolts. She's getting hit by them, and suddenly she has a vision of like it flashes by, but it's basically like a vision of her being evil. Like this is a occurring theme of the movie is Rey dealing with darkness. So this is the first shot, like of her being on the Emperor's throne, which is a hint. So she's distracted. She can't focus. She eventually does like recompose herself to destroy the droid, but at the same time, she knocked down trees and like she injured BB-8 because BB-8's with her. Like a tree landed on BB-8. Which leads to a funny moment of the Falcon finally gets back to where their base is set up. I don't remember the name of the planet, but like Poe and Rey have a moment where it's like where they each look at the other thing, like because Rey loves the Falcon and Poe loves BB-8, so it's like, what did you do to the Falcon? What did you do to BB-8? Tell me first. No, tell me first. Like it was a kind of like you're a stubborn person. No, you're a stubborn person. But it was kind of funny. I think it was pretty good banter. And so I'm trying to. Oh, the this is where the info, um, the info that they retrieved comes into play because it reveals that Palpatine's still alive and that they need to find a wayfinder to actually get to him. And there's a wayfinder on a certain planet because Luke was looking for it. Like there are two wayfinders basically. There's a whole theme of the movie of two basically when it comes to certain characters like everything like Luke and Leia, Kylo and Rey, like the two wayfinders basically two. We'll talk about this in a bit, but and I'm trying to remember. Okay, so they have to go to a planet that is full of sand. We're not gonna do the joke, but you know the joke. Where like Luke, I'm trying to remember. It's been a couple hours. I was trying to relax and like come down off the Star Wars high. But they travel to this planet, and C-3PO is with them. So it's Poe, Finn, Rey, Chewie, BB-8, and C-3PO. They're basically the group where everyone else is like this is the mission, the main mission. Find Palpatine, and because Palpatine, like the Last Order, they have to destroy the Last Order basically. They have to find Palpatine, hopefully destroy the ships. Like this is where like I guess the problem I had with the Last Jedi was so much cutting was like I really wanted to see the stuff with Rey and Luke, but the other stuff like kept getting in the way. But I watched recently. I watched Linkara uh, describe the character like between his Force Awakens comic review and the Last Jedi comic review, like explain the character growth between the two movies in a way that made sense to me. So like the Last Jedi, I didn't hate it, but I think it makes more sense to me now than just hey, it's a Star Wars movie. But so they travel to this planet, and because Luke was tracking a person, this all it all relates to itself. It all turns in on itself. They were looking for a person who forget had a clue to the whereabouts of the Wayfinder, and they find his ship, but they also get attacked by the First Order. And also, before this, I think, yeah, there was a scene for Kylo Ren where he's been since he's Supreme Leader now. Like it's all like he's a lot calmer in this movie. Like he has one small outburst of the Force, but other than that, he's pretty self-contained as the Supreme Commander. But like, there's a scene where he's in a throne room and like he plans to take the Knights of Ren because the Knights of Ren are in this movie. My biggest, if there's one takeaway of like my sort of disappointment of Rise of Skywalker, it's that the Knights of Ren really didn't get anything. They were just there. Like they were just kind of looming in the background of like just generic soldiers for Kylo Ren to have with him. Basically, they were his emo band because I remember somebody posting about their names of them sounding like an emo like group. Kylo also had his helmet repaired, sort of like all the cracks are still there, but he had it repaired to the point where he could wear it again. And like there was pretty good banter between him and Ray because the connection that they have that was created by Snoke is still there. So like they see each other at specific times in the movie, like plot convenience, basically. But I'm trying to remember what happens. Oh, he has an issue with Trusk or whatever his name was. Oh fuck. Let me. I'm trying to remember the guy who's been there for since the Force Awakens. What was his name? Do 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 do. Come on, synopsis. Oh right, I didn't even mention this, but there's a. This is another thing I forgot. Another throwback to the prequels. The dark side is a path. Wait, he. I completely popped at that phrase. To many abilities, some consider it to be unnatural, because he said that to Anakin Skywalker. I immediately like. Do, 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 Oh, and I completely forgot. There was a scene, kind of pointless, but it was Chewie and Chewie facing Poe and Finn in a game of the 3D chess, basically, and Chewie always beating them, and Finn and Poe were like, "You cheated! He cheated!" As they walked away, like it was kind of amusing, but. Where is the? Oh, and there's also a theme where Ray doesn't think she's worthy of Anakin's lightsaber. It's Anakin's. I'm not going to call it Luke's. Oh, and Rose was still in the movie. It's such a shame that people like hated Rose's actress because of The Last Jedi, and like it's not really her fault that people were mad at her character. But like she was in the movie. She didn't have that big a role, but she was kind of like just supporting everyone as part of the rebels. But uh, the desert of Pisana, where they go to. Hux. Yeah, it was General Hux. Yeah, yeah. That was what I was thinking of. So there's that that scene is taking place while she's like they're the resistance are investigating, trying to look for the clue when Ray comes across like a group of children, and then like she sees them laughing to like a marionette show, basically. Not puppets. They're like, well, it's sort of puppets, but they're like the pictures on sticks, kind of. So not really puppets, but then she comes across another one of this alien species who gives her a necklace. Like, and there's another thread of the movie of people asking Rey who she is. Like, who are you, Rey? And then the alien wants to know her surname, and Rey's like, I don't have a surname. I can't do a British accent, but that's a thing throughout the movie. Like more leaning in towards Rey's ancestry on who she is. But then Rey and Kylo have a connection again where they see each other, and their connection's gotten a lot stronger because they can actually fully interact with each other. Because like Kylo's all the way on, I think he's on a Star Destroyer, but it like the connection is made so it feels like they can actually interact with each other. Where he's like he tells her what's going on, like Palpatine wants me to kill you, but I don't want to kill you. I want you to join the dark side with me and take my hand. Just like they talk about what happened in the throne room where Kylo's like, I thought you were gonna you thought you were gonna turn me, and Rey's like, you could have killed me, but what you didn't use because I want you to join me and all that. To the point where he gets so mad he actually reaches out and rips the necklace off her, even though she's not next to him. So like that's how strong their connection is at this point. They can physically interact with each other even though they're not in the same room. Like they're like light years away from each other. That's not the right word, but I don't want to say kilometers because kilometers is an understatement, but you know what I mean. They don't even have to be in the same galaxy to like still interact with each other. So as that's going on, he rips the necklace off and then he sends an order of stormtroopers down to the planet, or they're already there. So they have to escape the First Order, and they end up coming across his ship, the person Luke was looking for. They come across his ship as they're looking for the clue. Oh no, before that, they escape. They run away from the First Order, who have some pretty cool bikes. Their bikes are like the bikes they use to chase them with have a spring in the back to send the stormtroopers flying, and they use a very Boba Fett-esque backpack, like jetpack. I love like Finn's reaction is they can do that now, and Poe's reaction is they can do that now. Like it's very amusing. Oh. So that's happening, and they end up rescued by Lando Calrissian. He's on the planet. He was actually helping Luke in his search. They went on this journey together, and it's nice to see Lando again. I'm glad of all the original trilogy people. They finally got Lando back. It was nice. He does have some bit of character stuff in the movie. It's not much, but he's still he's more supporting them than anything. Like he's not a main character. He's there to support the main characters, just like Leia has been, just like Luke has been, just like everyone from the original trilogy. But there's a cool moment because he's basically retired from, he retired, Han retired, but he doesn't fly anymore. But for what reason? I don't think he gave a reason. But the guy's ship that they're looking for, it's stuck out in the sand, off a pier or something. I forget what it's called. It's there, but it's in the sand because it's been abandoned for a long time. Because Luke couldn't find anything in it. The clue had disappeared with the guy. But it also comes back later where Lando does join the fight later, which was pretty awesome. He does eventually rejoin the Resistance. So they find their way to the ship, but they get attacked by the First Order before they can. Actually, I think they get attacked and they end up falling into sort of a quicksand trap, like a giant. Yeah, it was basically quicksand, where it's like the movie tries to pretend like that's the end. Like none of them escape. They all get sucked into quicksand, and then it it just sits there for a second with nothing. Like you would put the end right there, and then cut. If this were episodic, like half-hour TV style episodic, you would just go the end. You would put the end and then a question mark, and then the next episode you'd find out they survived. But it was kind of amusing. It's like, wait, are they all just dead? Is the story over? But no, they're not going to just die there. They end up falling through the sand, everyone, and they come across, well, the body of the guy they were looking for, or more like the bones of the guy they were looking for, which turns out Poe really doesn't like the sight of bones. He's the only one that reacts. He's like, I don't like bones. Oh, C-3PO had a good line. He's like, bones don't normally mean a good thing, or something like that. Like C-3PO is restrained in this movie, but he's still funny in the moments he has. Like he plays a more significant role than expected, but he's just kind of the background, just like, well, C-3PO. He's the robot that never shuts up. And that's kind of how he plays this movie. Like not as annoying as like Master Luke. He's not quite there, but he's still. I love his moments. As like everyone fell through the sand, and Poe's like looking for everyone, like shouts out a couple names, and C-3PO was like, "You didn't mention me, but I'm fine," kind of thing. Like it's amusing. It's not quite annoying. It's like if I ranked annoying, it's like Jar Jar is annoying, but C-3PO is still kind of funny in just his reactions to everything. So they find the body, or the bones, and they also find a knife, which has on it, inscribed in the native language of the Sith. Again, I feel like that's a throwback to the expanded universe, because the Sith were actually a race before they were basically a cult. Because that's how the universe sees the Jedi and the Sith as just cults at this point, because they've been gone for so long. There's also, I forgot to mention, another guy on the for the First Order who was one of like the high ranking guys, who's kind of, he's very similar to somebody from the original trilogy, one of the commanders who was talking about like the Force and how that's all not real and like a made up backwards cult. The guy's dialogue feels very similar to that, and that's specifically for a reason, because I think they're homaging that. But the guy also shows up later where he was actually with Palpatine in the original trilogy. Like I don't know if it's the same actor, but apparently the character served under Palpatine in the original trilogy, which is a very nice, very funny thing, like a very nice touch. And he's very like, well, he's evil, like the guy, like through and through, like he's kind of he's kind of an asshole. Like he's smart and evil. It'll come into play in a bit, but so they find the knife, and C-3PO translates it, but the problem is it's in Sith language, and according to C-3PO, there's a rule in place where he can't repeat this. Like he can't actually say this out loud, the Sith language, due to something implanted, I guess, from the Republic or the Empire. I'm not sure. Because he was built. No, he was built all the way when Anakin was a small boy. He was built by Anakin, but there's like a protocol in place that won't let him do that. And there's also a thing in the scene that's important where they meet presumably the creature that killed the guy. And everyone brings up their blasters except for Rey, who puts her or calls them puts them to tells them to put their weapons down, and realizes that the creature is injured. So this is a definitely feels like a throwback to the prequels and the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise, where, if you remember, if you've ever heard it, it's not a story the Jedi will tell you. But the whole thing about Darth Plagueis was he could bring uh, things back to life, except himself and all that. But that was Palpatine's way to manipulate Anakin, because we know Anakin was afraid of death and wanted to stop it. And he never taught Anakin that power, but the power ended up manifesting itself in Rey. She has the ability to basically transfer some of the Force, as she says, she transfers some of her, like the Force, into the creature, healing its wounds. So that's a big thread through this movie, like, or when it comes to Rey, is she has this ability to heal, Force heal. I assume it's in the expanded universe as well. I have some expanded universe books, but I haven't read that many. And you could say, oh, it's BS. She's what this, that, and whatever. Just you can use it to your as an excuse why you don't like Rey. She's blah blah blah. But like, I think it made sense in the story to have it manifest. It's kind of I don't want to consider it a cop out, but I'm not like, to me it made sense to have to, because this isn't the only time she uses it. It actually plays a major role in the story. It's not like it's not a like an like a throwaway thing. It's not just uses it once and you never see it again kind of thing. So she heals the creature, which in my opinion is the most Jedi thing you could do in that situation, because like the Jedi are peacekeepers, supposed to be non-violent, only use lethal force when it's absolutely necessary. So it made complete sense for Rey to solve that situation without lethal force, or without force at all. Using the force. Oh my God, but not trying to hurt the creature. So again, we have to come back to the dagger. There's a problem. There's only one way to get the only one way to get the code. There are actually two ways. Excuse me. The first way that they come up with is to or no, it's actually having a hard time describing this. At that point, they hadn't they at that point they get attacked by the First Order. They go back to their ship, and Kylo attacks in his modified what's it friggin' TIE fighter, in his modified TIE fighter. There's a badass moment here where Rey is just standing around waiting for Kylo, and then as his ship gets closer, she runs and then jumps up, slashing at his wing, forcing his TIE fighter to crash. But at the same time, like Finn and Poe are on the guy's ship because they can't go back to the Falcon. It would be too obvious. Like they already probably have like a swarm of First Order troopers there waiting for them. So they want to take his ship, but Chewie also gets captured because Chewie has to go yell to Rey that it's time to go. And at this point, after Kylo's ship's crash, Rey sees a transport flying away. So she tries to bring it back down with the Force, but Kylo's there to have a Force match with her. And this is the first part of Rey's character in the movie. she gets so angry that she's not able to rescue Chewie that she ends up force lightning the ship, destroying the transport, killing Chewie in her blind rage. That's a thing. That's a whole character arc for Rey is her rage and her trying to fight the dark side. And this is the first example. I was like, whoa! Like she legitimately just force lightning. I was like, damn, we haven't seen force lightning. Well, since the Last Jedi, but it honestly it came out of nowhere. It was a complete surprise. Now that I know the twist at the end, it's looking back on it, it's not a surprise. But at that second was like, whoa! She forced lightning Chewie. But no, she ends up escaping. I don't think they had a no. They didn't have a lightsaber duel right then. But I think they had a lightsaber duel earlier in the when they were connected like through the Force. Yeah, they definitely did. They had a bit of a lightsaber duel. So so they leave in the ship and they have to go. Since Chewie had the dagger, there's only one other way to get the Sith, like the translation. They have to manually pull it out of C-3PO, which would cause like a reset. As we learn, it resets his system to like it wipes his memory to get the translation of the Sith language. So they have to go to a specific place, uh, a planet called Kijimi, where we get some backstory for Poe. This like we get yeah. So they're looking for this this black arms droid guy. He works on droids. I forget his position, but like his name is Babu Frisk or something like that. He's all over the memes. He's all over the memes. So they go to this planet. It's overrun by First Order. So like they're banging on doors. They're looking for people, and they end up coming across this soldier who's not in First Order armor. She has like a red bodysuit and a kind of a gold helmet that almost looks like Boba Fett's ship because it's like protruding out the back like a slender piece coming out the back. That's for some reason it reminded me of that. And her name was her name was for like it was a play on the word sorry. I can't remember. It was an F like Fori. Oh my god, like but she wants to turn Poe in and Rey. She wants to turn more specifically. She wants to turn in Rey to the First Order, and we find out Poe was a spice dealer before he joined the Resistance, which is spice is like is a Star Wars unit concept. It's a drug. It's drugs basically. It's their word for drugs is spice. All kinds of different drugs. Like I think it's one specific drug, but I can't remember as much. Because I remember, like, there were places seen it like a Star Wars: The Old Republic video game. In one of the missions, you have to stop a spice trafficking on on a a Hutt inhabited planet on like the Hutt homeworld, I think. But yeah, Poe was well, he did something illegal back in the day, and this I guess you could call her bounty hunter. They worked together, but it's kind of you know what it reminded me of? I'm not going to play the clip, but you do not want to sell me death sticks. You want to go home and rethink your life, kind of thing. Because I think spice and death sticks are not directly related, but they're similar. They're both drugs, kind of thing. So they end up getting to Baba Frisk or Frit. I can't remember his name, unfortunately. It's Babu, and he's a little adorable alien. and they end up extracting the translation from C-3PO, which was a cool moment of like because C-3PO shut down, and then he rewoke, and his eyes were red like the commercials. This is that scene in the commercials, like the previews for the movie, the adverts for the movie, where his eyes are red. And right before that, he had a really cool line where he's like, "I'm just taking one more look at my friends." So, like a very cool moment for him before he got reset. But so, where do they go from there? Oh, the Wayfinder is in the Death Star wreckage on freaking. Oh my God, Endor. It's on Endor. So they have to go to Endor basically. There's some little bits in between of like uh there's a scene where Leia and Rose are talking about the mission, and one random soldier is like the buzzkill soldier. He's like Leia and Rose are trying to like be hopeful of the future, and he just comes in. He's like he's totally a buzzkill. But why does he even get screen time? Like he's not important. Like, and even Leia tells him just like lighten up, like have some hope. Even then, he tries to have hope, and it's so painful. Like he's overcompensating. Like, oh yeah, this is gonna be great. I can't tell you how great this is gonna be. Like, dude, just shut up. Um, trying to remember. Oh, I'm trying to remember in the order of things that happened. But before that, they have to go save Chewie because Rey or Kylo appears to Rey again, and his ship, like his Star Destroyer, shows up in near like in the orbit of the planet. So they have a little bit of a moment, and at that point, Rey is able to tell that Chewie's still alive because we had a scene earlier of Hux and the other guy who works with Palpatine uh, with Chewie as their prisoner. And they take his dagger away. They take all his stuff away. So they have to go rescue Chewie after this, after they get the code. Ooh, excuse me. I'm thinking I could probably. This is a 2.5 hour movie. I could probably talk for 2.5 hours. But they have to go to his Star Destroyer, and Poe's friend. There was a really good heart to heart between Poe and Fori, because Fori is a woman. Like, because you can tell immediately by her voice, they're not trying to hide her voice. They're not trying to like lower the pitch to pretend she's somebody else. Like, there are quite a few strong women in this movie, strong female characters. I kept thinking like Leia, Rose, Rey, Fori. I'm probably getting a name wrong. Like, there's a predominant like okay. So that's rescue Chewie, and Fori gives Poe a medallion that will grant him access to the freighter. Like it's a get out of planet free card basically. She was going to use to escape to like a distant planet to escape what's going on to Jimmy. I think I'm saying that right. But she gives it to him to get on the ship to save Chewie. And so they have to get on. They get captured after like well, first Rey uses the Force to mess with the minds of a couple stormtroopers, first order troopers, She literally gets them to say, "You're happy that we're here," and they're like, "Yeah, we're so happy you're here." And then she has them lead the group, with which is just Ray, Poe, and Finn, to the prison where they're holding Chewie. As she takes the dagger, Kylo ended up like going on the planet's surface to look for Ray with his knights. So like, he's not there, but she ends up wandering into his chambers where we saw it earlier. He still has the helmet of Darth Vader, which I love that every single time they show Darth Vader's helmet, they play the Imperial March. Like it still has gravity so many decades later. Like it was just like dun 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 dun. Dun. I'm like, oh, that's it. It still works. Empire's March will never not work. I don't think there were any Wilhelm screams in this one. If there were, I missed them, but I don't know why Emperor's March led me to Wilhelm. Maybe just Star Wars made that scream famous. So she ends up fine because Kylo had looked at it earlier, didn't say anything. He had a scene where he looked at it, but then Ray shows up in his quarters, and they have another Force connection. But he doesn't know where she is because he's like he knows she's close, he can feel her, but he can't tell where she is. And then the Knights of Ren are searching the planet, unable to find her. So they end up having like here's the big twist. Kylo Ren says he knows who Rey is, and she's getting angrier. They start dueling, like even though they're not next to each other, it feels like they're actually hitting lightsabers together. Like I thought it was really well done. The twist, and massive spoiler alerts. The twist at this point, Rey says, like Rey demands Kylo tell her who she is. She's not a Skywalker. She's a Palpatine. She is the granddaughter of Palpatine himself. And honestly, I didn't know how to feel about this right away. Because in my head, I'm like, Dark Lord, he's like so self-absorbed. I can't see him not only having a kid, well, actually just having a kid, because granddaughter and all that, but like all Palpatine would have to do would have a kid. But when you think about it, it makes more sense. Because of course, well, one, Palpatine would definitely want an heir to like, because if cloning doesn't work, pass down, like he could possess. Because in the expanded universe, he tried to possess Luke after the events of the original trilogy. Like Luke went back to fight him again because he was not completely dead. He was like trying to stay alive, and he tried to possess Luke. So the Emperor can possess people. Sort of like it would make sense that he would want somebody related to him that he could possess if his body deteriorated and he couldn't control it anymore. Continue his reign no matter how long. And also, I could kind of see like prequel, maybe episode 1 or 2, Palpatine like manipulating somebody into, I hate to say it, but having a child. Like he had that much power, like as a a member of parliament on Naboo. I could kind of see that happening. It's really unfortunate, but it makes more sense for the Emperor than my initial thought of him having sex. Like he probably would as a young man. Like while he's like yeah. So as we get told later in the story, this whole thing wraps around because her parents were going to be brought to like Palpatine has wanted his granddaughter. He doesn't want her dead. He wants to pass on himself into her. So the guy that they were looking for with the Wayfinder clue was actually commanded by Palpatine to bring Rey's parents to him, or just Rey, and her parents hid her there specifically to hide her like from Palpatine. So the guy killed her parents. Like, it brings the story somehow full circle. It also helps that The Force Awakens and the Rise of Skywalker were both directed by J.J. Abrams. So it's like it makes sense that he would finish the story that he started. So Rey, at this point, Rey has a vision of an evil version of herself. This is where the Rey from the ads, the dark Rey that came out. This is what she's from. She's a vision of that side of Rey, of like the Palpatine in her. Because like Rey with the double lightsaber, they actually have a small amount of a fight, and Rey, even the evil Rey, is like does that evil thing of like really aggressive angular teeth. I can't really like, you know what I mean though. Where like the evil Rey's trying to convince her to give in, but that's another unfortunate that it's only like maybe a minute or two of a small amount of like a very small scene with the evil Rey with the double lightsaber that everyone memed the shit out of. I wish it had more. Maybe like a fight between them at the end. I don't know. Like, I kind of wish like it'd been hyped up in my head of like people like rumors of what it could mean. That honestly, just the couple seconds or maybe a minute or two that it was given, it didn't feel like enough, which is unfortunate. But at that point, Kylo realizes, because in their fight, in the small amount of fight Kylo and Rey had, they destroyed the pillar that Darth Vader's helmet was on. So that gave Kylo the realization that she was up in his quarters. So then they have to escape. Oh, and Poe, Finn, Chewie were captured and were sent to be executed. And Hux shows up, and he says he wants to do it himself. And immediately, I realized what was going on. Hux was the spy. Hux leaked information because he shoots the First Order troopers, and he was the spy giving the Resistance the information. Like, it was unfortunately like they did a good job of like hinting at it because Kylo said he felt some an issue with Hux, which Hux tried to blow off. It's about the helmet. No, I like your helmet. And another guy was like, "Your helmet looks cool," or something like that. So like Hux tried to blow it off, but no, he sets Poe, Finn, and Chewie free. And even Poe asks him, "Why are you helping us?" Because like it doesn't make sense for him, or in his mind, he doesn't care about the Resistance. He just wants to. He's so jealous of Kylo Ren that he wants to see him lose that badly that he would set the Resistance free. Even at that point, he's smart enough to tell Finn, just like, shoot me in the arm, so he can lie to the generals and Rey, saying, "Oh, they forced me to set them free," like hinting back to when they did that to Phasma, or at least a similar idea. And it's a funny moment in where instead of shooting him in the arm, Finn shoots him in the leg. It was like, oh, boom! I like, oh, that's subtle humor. I like that. Like expectation subversion, sort of. But also, right after that, Hux does go back. Like they're escaping. I think Kylo came to the ship, and Rey and him had another lightsaber duel, which was nice. And then Rey took his TIE fighter and left because I think that's I'm trying to remember the exact situation, but I know at this point she took his TIE fighter and flew back to Octo. But at the same time, Hux went back to report what happened, and the commander who worked with Palpatine just shot him dead. He knew. He knew Hux was the traitor, so he just shot him dead. So Hux is dead now. I mean, I'm two minds of this. Like, great, he was annoying. He was a very annoying neo-Nazi because he was full neo-Nazi in the first two movies. But at that point, he was helping the Resistance, so it's like I'm glad he's dead, but I kind of feel bad for him at the same time. Because he didn't really have character development. It just sort of came out of nowhere. Like, sure, you could probably look at movies and he's so mad that like Kylo Ren got Snoke's attention more than he did. So it was kind of like building inside him the whole time. But then it just happened so suddenly, like you didn't. All of a sudden, I'm the spy. Bam, you're dead. Like, I would have liked to see a little bit more go into Hux sort of as a good guy, but I guess it made sense to just kill him. So he's probably going to die later anyway. So, I'm trying. Poe, Finn, Chewie, and C-3PO and BB-8 all leave. I think they go back. Yeah, they go back to Leia. They go back to the Resistance base, while Rey is on Octo, and we see she burns Kylo Ren's ship. Like it's in the background. It's burning when she wants to throw Anakin's lightsaber into the wreckage to get rid of it because she wants to abandon everything. She wants to just run away. She's scared of the fact that she's a Palpatine and that she's destined. Shut up, phone. And that she's destined to. Oh my God. She's destined to take over the throne. Be the emperor or empress, I guess. So she throws the lightsaber away, and who catches it? Luke Skywalker. Force ghost all the way, comes out of the wreckage. And I love his line. He's like, a Jedi's weapon should always, like he's something like, hey, don't throw this away. Like a Jedi's weapon should always be respected, or something like that. So even at this point, I was kind of expecting everyone to like pull a fast one and just like deny that she was a Palpatine, but no, like they went with it. Like even Luke knew who she was. Like even he wasn't surprised, which is definitely feels like a throwback to when Luke found out he was Vader's son and went to Obi-Wan looking for, like, he's like, you knew, and yet you didn't tell me. Like, you lied to me. Like, it felt similar to that, but like, the dialogue didn't go that way. So, Luke wants her to, basically, like, Rey wants to run away. Luke asks, what are you afraid of? And before I ever saw the movie, it's been out 10 days, I saw people asking, does this movie piss on Anakin Skywalker's legacy? And this is a thing I've been thinking of since. I don't think it does. So here's one thing, in my opinion, what makes Anakin and Rey different, and I don't think this buries Anakin, like, his legacy, but like, Anakin turned to the dark side because it was the only thing he thought he could do. The Jedi wouldn't understand. He thought like he needed to save Padme. He was afraid of death, of loss. He lost his mother. Like he couldn't stand, and he joined the dark. That's why he became Darth Vader. But Rey is afraid of herself. She's afraid of the fact that this is her destiny, is the dark side. Like she's afraid of what she will become. And Luke ends up like convincing her that. I'm trying to remember what he says. It's so hard. I have to. I want to give it a rewatch just to like remember the dialogue better. But it convinces her that her destiny to destroy like Palpatine, because he knows he's like, you're afraid of yourself because you're a Palpatine. It's like, he tells he gives. So here's I'm running around this. He talks to her, and then he says that Leia knew. Even Leia knew she was a Palpatine, and trained her because she could, like, of her heart. Leia knew that Rey's heart would be good. She could feel it, like similar to how she felt that, or Luke felt that Kylo was lost to the darkness. They felt that Rey would be good. So Luke says to Rey, "There's something that Leia would want to give her." So they go back, I think, to his hut, and I don't know. This is hilarious to thinking why you didn't give her this earlier, but probably because she wasn't ready. But Rey finds Leia's lightsaber, and they completely acknowledge the fact that in the expanded universe, Leia trained to be a Jedi. Like they completely acknowledge that. Like they show her as a young, like in the original trilogy, that young, training with Luke, like his green lightsaber, like them having a lightsaber duel with the masks on, that he like new versions of the helmet that he wore when doing his lightsaber training. And that Leia stopped training because she felt the darkness, like she had a vision of the future and she saw the death of her son, Ben, Kylo Ren. So she stopped her training. She gave her lightsaber to Luke, I guess, and she went off to start the Resistance or whatever. Probably, actually, at that point, she was probably working with the New Republic, because they were that young. So Rey takes Leia's lightsaber. She still has her staff as well, with Luke's or Anakin's lightsaber that had a little bit of, like, it was repaired, but it kind of looked like it was obvious that it was a slop job, because there was a bit of extra piece around here to, like, probably, like, it wasn't done by an expert, so they probably needed, like, the extra stuff to keep it stable, I imagine. But she goes to Endor. Everyone now goes to Endor. Because the ship that Rey destroyed, it had the Wayfinder on it. So, and the Wayfinder was intact. So she took that, and this is another homage to the original trilogy, in my opinion. Luke lifts his X-Wing out of the water of Ahch-To for Rey to pilot. It's so oh my god. Just like thinking about Yoda, like that was the whole point of Yoda trying to train Luke, was like lifting the X-Wing out of the Dagobah swamp. And like for Luke's basically role to become that of Yoda to Rey at this point, call it what you will, I'm completely happy they homaged the original trilogy with that moment. It's like, yes, he came full circle. He was actually able to lift the X-Wing out of the water. That was such a good moment. Mhm. So everyone goes to Dagobah to retrieve basically the map to, or like how to get. I don't know. I thought the Wayfinder had. I thought the Wayfinder Kylo Ren had was the way to get. Oh no, yeah, because there are two, and or was this? No. Oh my God, I'm jumping way ahead of myself because she went to Octo after the scene on Dagobah. My God, I'm throwing everything. Oh, okay. So they went to Dagobah, all of them. Ah, I'm dumb. I'm dumb. I got that completely out of order. Okay. So Dagobah to the remnants of the second Death Star, which crashed on the planet, and Rey uses the knife because it has sort of it has a unique shape, which hilariously there are hilts on the side, and she pulls out sort of like a, I don't want to say a compass, but something similar, and she holds it up to the wreckage of the Death Star, and the indents in the dagger line up with the destruction, like the rubble of the Death Star, to point where the Wayfinder is. Okay, so that happens. Here's another in this scene. There's another really good moment of character development for Poe, where Rey, because they end up crashing the Falcon after escaping the First Order, because the brakes are mangled, so they have to repair it, and they end up meeting. Uh, this is a pretty good moment. They end up meeting people who were also first resistance troopers. Like they met another woman who I can't remember her first order code name, but they didn't give her a name. This was also a really good character development for Finn, but we'll talk about that. So in this scene, I'll talk about it in order. They have to repair the Millennium Falcon, and Finn and the woman, who's a African American or probably mixed race, at least the actress, they end up having a conversation and they end up relating to each other because they were both from the First Order and they both abandoned. Actually, the woman had a whole group of, like, a whole battalion of people who had abandoned the First Order, and Finn immediately connects with her because of their shared history. Like the group she's with, they were told to fire on civilians and they refused. And she's heard of FN 2187 because, traitor and all that, but like they end up talking about why they both abandoned the First Order. And for Finn, it was sort of like a feeling. It was, in his way, the Force guiding him. And I thought this was really a really good moment for Finn to have somebody who had exact same experience with him, so we could, like, he immediately opened up and he was excited. Like it was a cool moment for Finn because throughout this movie he's been, like, I don't want to say strong and silent, but like he's been way more like determined than he was in the other two movies. Like the first, it talks about the character arc of Finn, where the first movie he wants to just run away from everything. The only reason he's still there is because he found a friend in Rey. And the second movie, he learns, like, how to, like, he becomes way more confident to the point where he actually properly joins in with the First Order, or the Resistance, excuse me. Wow. But in this movie, he's just completely confident. Like he's strong. He's a full on Resistance member. Like he's doing everything. There's no second thought to Finn. Like everything. Like he comes up with plans. Like it's, if you watch the Force Awakens and then this movie, it feels like they're completely different characters, but you wouldn't know why unless you watch The Last Jedi. And like, if there was anything that gives credit to The Last Jedi, that it created such good character development that it got Finn from point A to point C. I don't know if it's what J.J. Abrams wanted to do with him, but I think it worked. And this point where you're like, you just go with Finn, and yeah, like Finn's really strong. There's another scene for after that where Rey, because she needs to hurry, kind of thing. She takes a skimmer because the Death Star is like on like you have to get through really harsh waves to get to the rubble. So Finn, or no, excuse me, Poe and Finn argue about what they should do: repair the Falcon or like go after Ren. And Poe has a moment of like hot-headedness because at this point, after The Last Jedi, he's pretty calm. Like he realized his rashness would get people killed, so like he was trying to be stronger, but like he had a moment where he was hot-headed, and he says the line like, "I'm not Leia." I forget what the conversation was like, arguing like, "But I'm not Leia," and Finn was like, "You're damn right about that." And that line kind of stuck in Poe's head and like caused him to stop for a second and go, "What?" Like it led to character development of like him a bit later. So at this point, Rey has gotten to the Death Star and she finds the Wayfinder. She also finds Kylo Ren. And basically, Kylo Ren wants her to join with him. He's not emo. He's a lot more in control of himself in this movie. So he's trying to get her to turn. She knows she's a Palpatine, but like, she won't turn. She's determined to be good. So Kylo crushes the Wayfinder in his hand, destroying it. Because he wants her to go with him to kill Palpatine. He doesn't want to kill Rey. He wants them to be together to destroy Palpatine. And even Palpatine knows this. He's like, "Are you like, don't disobey me, boy?" Kind of not in those words, but kind of that feeling. Because like he realizes that Kylo could kill Rey, but doesn't want to. So Rey gets really mad, and they have a lightsaber duel. And this was probably my favorite duel in this whole trilogy, because it, more than just being flashy fighting, it felt like it told a story. So like Rey was so angry, she was pissed off, she was giving into the dark side. She was like the aggressor most of the time. Like she would hit, like she was trying to destroy him, but she couldn't land a hit. Like Kylo Ren is skilled enough to keep blocking everything. And at points during it, the tide turned where Kylo would suddenly go on offense, but then after a couple strikes, Rey would get back. Like they're going at it. It's obvious that Kylo doesn't want to kill Rey, but he's not just trying to survive. I guess he's trying to beat her, but not kill her. And it gets to the point where Kylo is like, he's gotten the offense, like he's gotten the high ground, so to speak, and he's like hitting Rey, and she's on her knees. She can't get up, to the point where like it looks like he's about to win, but in a last-ditch effort, Leia summons the Force to basically send a message like to Kylo. It's kind of how to explain it. She sends her voice to Kylo, which stops him for a second. It's like it freezes him, and like in that one moment, Rey is so overwhelmed with rage that she grabbed Kylo's lightsaber and stabbed him about here, like base fatally wounding Kylo. Like she's so mad that she doesn't even see what she's blinded by rage basically at that point. But when the lightsaber goes through him, she realizes that Leia was talking to him. She feels what Kylo felt and immediately snaps out of rage and realizes, oh, she like fatally wounded Kylo. And this also took all of Leia's energy, so Leia ends up passing away. Like not quite into the Force yet, but like she dies. Leia dies, sending a message to Kylo. So Rey, realizing this, she drops his lightsaber. She drops both her lightsabers, I think. I think she grabbed his lightsaber. I'm trying to remember whether she used his lightsaber or hers. I think she used his. But she drops it, like deactivates it, drops it, and then uses her the force, to like she starts crying. Like she generally, like throughout the Last Jedi, her goal was to turn Kylo Ren back to the good side. And looking at what just happened, she starts crying that she potentially just killed Kylo Ren. So this scene is also really good, like for Kylo Ren. I'll get into that in a second, but she uses the Force to heal his wound, saving him before she gets in his TIE fighter and flies away to Ahch-To. So that's where that comes into play, that scene I talked about earlier. So this point, Kylo Ren is like standing on the rubble of the Death Star, and he has a vision of Han Solo, his father. And also, there were no balconies to stop people from falling, which is a Star Wars trope, but it's rubble, so I'm willing to forgive it. He has a vision of his father, and it's very similar to the conversation they had in The Force Awakens, where Han is trying to get through to Ben to save him. But this one goes a lot better. Like this conversation, because Kylo knows it's a Force vision. Like, I guess it's a Force vision, or it's a memory of his talking to him. It just takes physical form so we can see it. And I guess so they could give Harrison Ford a payday. I can't remember the exact dialogue, but like I expected Kylo Ren to like activate his lightsaber again, a la Force Awakens, but this point is so much better because like he repeats the line where he's like, I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the power to do it. But at this point, he's kind of been broken by his mother's words. And Han says, I know you can. And he's trying to convince Kylo Ren that, like, Kylo Ren says Ben is dead. But Han says, no, Kylo Ren is dead. And at that point, Kylo Ren took his lightsaber and threw it into the water. Physically and metaphorically killing Kylo Ren, thus bringing Ben back to life. He throws the dark side away. Like that was, I really thought that if they would give Ben turn him from the dark side, I thought they would do it as cheesily as possible. I think that was, given what's happened in the trilogy, I think that was probably the best way they could have done a retribution for Kylo Ren. Like metaphor, like throwing the darkness away in the form of his lightsaber. Like, I can't think of a better way to give him a retribution, because he is full on Ben now in the rest of the movie. So basically, the rest of this, it all leads up. We talked to about the part on Octo. It all leads to the climax on Exegol, where Ray takes the X-wing with the Wayfinder that Kylo had, because Kylo used one, and even though she destroyed his ship, it was still working. It was still like it still worked. So she took it to Exegol, but she made sure to send the Resistance like her coordinates so they could follow her path to Exegol. And this is the final I don't know if it's half an hour or something like that. The crescendo to the end, basically. So she arrives, sees all the massive Star Destroyers. She lands. She goes down to because it's basically like a floating platform that goes to the lower level, where it's really good moment of like her looking around, and like you generally feel the tension of you don't know when Palpatine's gonna pop out. Like it felt really good. Like there wasn't really much music. Like they had played the dan 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 dan, not the Empire. The what's the song of dan, 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 dan. They played that at least once. I think they already played it, or they play it in this upcoming scene. I don't remember, but like like they really did a good job of the atmosphere in that last scene of like her looking around, her seeing the Emperor's throne with like lightning, like the bright flash of light to see it, and then like her looking around and suddenly Palpatine being behind her. I thought there was like it made me tense. Like I thought it was really well done, but I'm the kind of person who sits there in anticipation the whole like throughout a whole movie because I just can't sit still really. So Palpatine is amazing. He manipulates Rey as well as he did Anakin in the prequel trilogy. Like it's on par in my opinion. Like so he tells her basically, I want you to kill me so my spirit may pass on to you, and you like what I said like earlier, like it all comes full circle. Like his goal is for her to kill him. Like that's like, but yeah, I'm trying to remember. Because there's quite a bit happening in the scene, and it also opens up to like Palpatine has a full, like basically a full cult in the building surrounding him, like people, like subjects, like not troopers, like just people in black robes covering their face and support of him, ready to pass on like his spirit to her so he could still keep ruling. And he talks about her family, her parents, because they stuck with the whole her parents were nothing idea. Her parents ran away because one of them was the child of Palpatine. Don't know whether it was the father or the mother. They didn't really say. It's just so he's manipulating her. At that point, the Resistance attacks. So like when Poe and Finn and Chewie went back to the Resistance, they had to come up with a plan. So like before Leia died, she anointed Poe the temporary general of the Resistance. So now Poe's in command. It brings the whole story of him from The Last Jedi trying to fight for command, like being a hothead pilot and getting in the way of the people who had a plan. It brings it full circle to him being the general and having to like make the decisions. And of course, he anoints like a Finn co-commander because really bromance. Like it makes sense because like Poe is not Leia. That's the whole thing. He doesn't know what he's doing, so we need somebody there to help him. Even at this point, Lando comes back as a support for Poe. Poe asks him like, "How did you guys defeat an empire with basically nothing?" And the whole Lando's response is, "Well, we had each other. We had our like we had each other's backs." Basically, is what he says. Because nobody's ever ready for that kind of thing, being a general commanding people. So they send off Lando to basically get anybody they can. This was the whole idea of the movie. Another thread is the First Order wins by forcing you to believe that you're alone. So like there's nobody to fight with, so you lose hope, so you stop fighting. So Lando and Chewie went with the Falcon to round up anybody they could, telling anybody that there was hope to keep fighting, while Poe and the Resistance staged an assault on the Star Destroyers because they can't activate their shields without going above the planetary orbit, which they're low in the planet Exegol. So that's their their strategy is like prevent them from activating their shields and try and take them out as much as they like do as much damage as they can. And there's a whole thing of there's a communications tower that they would use to transmit messages to each other to like raise. So they want to take that out. Like that's basically the battle, like the idea of the battle, where they appear in orbit and because the Star Destroyers can't really attack each other. They're way too close with their big. Because it was shown earlier that one of the Last Order Star Destroyers, one of their cannons, has enough power to annihilate a planet. It's not just the Death Star anymore. They have a whole fleet of cannons each with the ability to take out a planet. So they could destroy galaxies like that. Like that's how much more power. Like each individual Star Destroyer is basically as powerful as a Death Star. And they even mention it. There was a funny callback earlier with the guy who was working for Palpatine basically saying we have to I'm trying to remember what he said, but we have to make up for what happened at Starkiller Base with the Last Order. Like that was a pretty funny callback. But so they have to take out these Star Destroyers at this range. Like they don't have time to let them get into orbit because they will just destroy everything. They demonstrated that by destroying Djimmi like earlier after Poe and Finn they'd all went back to the Resistance. They destroyed that planet as a message to the Resistance because they knew the Resistance was there earlier. And I've talked for an hour and a half. Jesus. So in this scene, also Ben shows up, and this was another awesome moment. Ben has to, because he's not Kylo Ren anymore. He's Ben. He's taken off the Kylo Ren outfit, the emo black, and he's just in basically a plain T-shirt and pants kind of look. Like he is no longer Kylo Ren. He got rid of his helmet. We didn't see what happened to the helmet, but he has to get down to the inside of Exegol. God, that's a hard word to say. He's gonna try and save Rey. So as he's going down, he has to fight the Knights of Ren. Basically he has to symbolically destroy the last of Kylo Ren in this moment. And obviously we know he doesn't have he shows up carrying a gun, like a blaster, but it's a group of highly trained soldiers with melee weapons. Like, he's not gonna have that good a time, like that easy a time. So he even knows this, so he starts fighting them, and they start beating him up. But at this point, Palpatine has already convinced Rey to strike him down to become Empress. Like she's been manipulated like that. Like because Palpatine like opened up like basically a hangar doors above them to show the battle going on, and he lets out the biggest bleh he could possibly have. Like he starts electrocuting all of the resistance ships that are in the air, like knocking out their targeting computers, like not destroying them, but like making them inoperable to fight. And he's manipulating Rey just like he did Luke, showing Rey that her friends can't help her. He doesn't go so far as to say the deflector shields will be quite operational when your friends arrive. But it's basically the same thing, like the same idea. So she's getting ready to strike him down, but she realizes, she feels the connection that Ben has come to save her, and then Ben's getting his ass kicked. So like she was holding where is it? She was holding Anakin's lightsaber to strike Palpatine down, but she puts it behind her back and then lets it go, and then Ben catches the lightsaber through their connection to the Force and starts fighting. I love what he does. This was hilarious. Like, I don't know if it's intentional or anything, but right as he activates the lightsaber, and he goes, meh. Like just literally the smallest little gesture to everyone, where it's like, we know how this is going to go down, and then starts kicking their asses and killing them all. Which is why I found the Knights of Ren being unfortunate that they were not given anything more, really. Like, it makes, I guess it, like, as somebody said, not every character in Star Wars has to have their backstory established, like Snoke or the Knights of Ren, but I still wish the Knights of Ren, like, Snoke at least was explained in this, where he was created by Palpatine as sort of like a vessel, like, to get his will out there, because he couldn't move. But the Knights of Ren, I really wish they had more of a backstory. So eventually, after defeating the First Order, the Knights of Ren, Ben gets to Palpatine and Rey, and they stand together, and Palpatine realizes that they connected. They have the power that Plagueis had, the power to save people, to give life to people. So he starts sucking that from them. Excuse me, I couldn't find a better word. Like, he starts taking that from them to revive himself. Because even if Rey won't do it, he'll do it himself. He's that evil that no matter what, it has to be him. Whether it's him in this clone body or his spirit possessing Rey. So he revives himself to the point where he can actually get off, like, the machine that's holding him. And like you see his like through the most of the movie, his eyes were blank. At this point, as he gets revived, you see those piercing yellow Sith eyes come back. And it's scary because you know what he can do. He does, like he showed the display of Force lightning earlier, but like a fully revived Palpatine is dangerous. And at this point, he Force pushes Ben backwards into the room, basically to his death. And then he starts to, he's going to kill Rey, basically. He's going to electrocute Rey. And she pulled out her Leia's lightsaber earlier after dropping Anakin's. So she's blocking his Force lightning, very much like Mace Windu. Another callback to the prequels. Well, Palpatine is just cackling maniacally, like he's being totally evil. Where Rey is trying to do this, but she finally speaks to all the voices of the past Jedi. I heard potentially Qui-Gon maybe, but I heard Yoda. You heard Anakin. I'm pretty sure I heard Anakin. because he said, "Bring balance to the Force," like I did. It was Anakin. Like, it was Anakin's voice. You heard Master Yoda, I said already. Ben, because in the right before this, Ben Kenobi, Obi-Wan. Oh, because in the Force Awakens, Obi-Wan said in the lightsaber vision Rey had, he said, "These are your first steps, Rey." Right now, in this one, he says, "These are your last steps, Rey. Take them." And you heard, above all, Luke Skywalker saying, "The Force will be with you always," which gave Rey the courage she needed to summon Anakin's lightsaber next to hers and cross the blades and push the lightning back into Palpatine, killing him, maybe for good. I can't cross my fingers, but cross my fingers. And destroying the throne, the Emperor's throne, and killing all of the Emperor's servants, minions, whatever you want to call them, supporters. And also it frees the like all the ships fighting. There was also a moment during this where the Resistance were getting their ass kicked because there were so many TIE fighters and all that. But Lando came through with a massive armada, like a massive amount of ships. And these weren't soldiers; they were just people. Even the First Order guys were talking to each other, like General was like, they don't have a navy or something like that. And there's like, it's just normal people like that. The idea of hope was strong enough to bring a giant fleet of people. And I think there were some callbacks, like there was an old guy who said something to Lando like they had met before. Not sure if it's a nod to the original trilogy, but probably. And so they also during this whole thing, the First Order the general had realized that they were going after the comm tower on the base, so they rerouted their communications to the main Star Destroyer because they've realized, like, they've gotten smarter. So Finn and the fellow First Order deserter he met, they staged a ground assault on the Star Destroyer. Not with speeder bikes, because that would be too easy to shut down, but with like creatures from like the I don't know what they were called, like bipedal, creatures, and they just a swarm of them on the Star Destroyer. So eventually, throughout the madness, they are able to take out the main Star Destroyer's comm tower, like putting Finn and her at risk, which they were able to be saved. And they start taking out and start destroying all of the Star Destroyers. So yay, good guys win. But then it turns out what Rey did actually killed her. Like, legitimately. Like, Ben is able to survive. Like, he gets up, but he's seriously injured. And he goes over to Rey, and Rey is dead. Full on, like, corpse. Like, nothing behind the eyes. Like, she's not moving. She's full on dead at this point. So you're thinking, oh, Rise of Skywalker, it's going to be Ben's full redemption. Well, it is, but not in the way you're thinking. Ben uses all of his life force to save Rey, redeeming himself by sacrificing himself, and he and his mother at the same time fade into the Force. So all the Skywalkers at this point are dead. Everyone, Luke, Leia, Ben, Anakin, everyone's gone but Rey. So kind of thinking, like, what's going to happen next? But after that scene, basically they win. They all celebrate. They don't go back to, they don't cut back to the Resistance base. They cut to Tatooine and Luke's home, with Rey putting Luke and Leia's lightsabers in the sand and using the Force to bury Luke and Leia's lightsabers, symbolically burying the Skywalkers. And like she does some stuff. She like slides down a hill. She looks at Luke's old home of the moisture farm, and then this woman who's has an animal like a bantha, probably. I think it's banthas that are in Tatooine. She brings it back. She's like, Nobody has been here for a long time. Who are you? I'm Rey. Rey what? And then Rey looks to the Force ghosts of Leia and Luke and says, Rey Skywalker, thus fully adopting the name Skywalker and burying Palpatine, burying her proper history. And that's where the movie ends. Oh, wait. No, it doesn't, because Rey has her own lightsaber. I couldn't tell in the couple seconds it was on screen whether it was her staff or not, because it was only like this part was on screen, like the part where I'm grabbing right here, like only the very tip of it. But she ignites it, and it's an orange blade. I don't remember. Wikipedia, what do you have to say about orange lightsabers? Come on. Lightsaber crystals. Okay, where is it? I don't remember what orange stands for. Significance of colors. Oh my god, there's whatever, but her lightsaber is orange, and that's where the movie ends. It cuts to the like the ending credits with the song. Whew. Can I summarize that? I really liked it. If you couldn't tell, the fanboy in me was just going crazy throughout the whole thing. Like like the prequels. It it felt like a Star Wars movie that wanted to be a Star Wars movie. It had action. It had like the adventure. It had like, oh my god. I'm not saying that the other two didn't have it, but I don't think the other two movies in this trilogy were as good as this one. Like, it told very much one story. Like, everyone was related to the one story, basically stopping Palpatine and the Final Order. Like you could pick it apart. You could question some things. You could probably find things you don't like. But to me, personally, I consider myself a fanboy, whatever. But like, I've written my own Star Wars fan fiction. I love the lore of Star Wars. which is not a subtle plug for my, I guess, my old DeviantArt, but I haven't uploaded the stories to my new DeviantArt page yet, which I probably should. So, like, it felt like the original trilogy didn't dive into the lore of Star Wars very much. Like, it dived into. It felt more like I'm trying to think. There's no way to describe this that'll make people like excited, but like, I don't know. I love the throwbacks to all the movies. Like, I loved all the references. Like, I enjoyed the characters. Like, here's the big thing that I'll get out of the way. You kind of have to see The Last Jedi, or at least know the character arcs to understand where the characters are now. If you just watch The Force Awakens and then watch The Rise of Skywalker, they're two completely different. Like, even looking at every single character, they're complete. Like more specifically, like Poe, Finn, and Rey are completely different to who they were in The Force Awakens. And you have to go through The Last Jedi to see that. But it all, I think it pays off in this movie. And I was like, I am a person who can, you ask me to turn off my brain, there it goes. I like, pick apart the movie all you want. If I'm sitting down, I'm completely engrossing myself in Star Wars. And I really enjoyed this Star Wars as Star Wars. Not don't care about the camera cuts, don't like I engross myself in the story. Really, that's what's important to me. And I think this told a really good story. With as I said, homages to ideas from all the other movies. But I don't think they were done just to be fan service. I think they played a part in telling the story, not just doing things for the sake of it. Like, I don't know. This movie is gonna divide people from what I've seen already. Love it or hate it. People are like, people are saying it's better than the original trilogy. Do I think that? I don't know. I can't make that call. I'm not going to make that call because it's a movie that's fresh in my mind right now. The two trilogies have passed. Now three trilogies. They're so engrossed in here that I don't know really. What I think of Star Wars, when I think of Star Wars, I think of like, well, it's dumb fun. It's science fiction. It can be cheesy, it can be stupid, there can be dumb dialogue, but like I can kind of I'm willing to ignore that to try and enjoy the movie as like I could you can we've endlessly made fun of the prequels. I could endlessly make fun of the original trilogy, but that won't stop me from sitting there and enjoying like the prequels or the original trilogy or the sequel trilogy. Like I can sit back and laugh at something and say that was just kind of dumb. I don't know why they did that, but it won't take the enjoyment away from Star Wars. The idea that people are fighting with magic and freaking lightsabers that don't make scientific sense. In the end, whether you enjoy this movie or not, whether it's a good movie, a masterpiece, a piece of crap, it's all up to you. It's all subjective, in my opinion. If you can enjoy it, absolutely. Enjoy the heck out of it. If you can't enjoy it, that's your choice as well. I feel sorry for you, but oh, and my lightsaber's dead. Hmm. I think I've talked enough. I probably haven't convinced somebody to go see it, but Lord knows I want to see it again. I want to see stuff that I missed. See things from it, like knowing the plot twist. I want to see if that does anything to Rey's character before it gets revealed. But I don't know. Oh, I've talked a lot. Thank you for watching. I hope you have enjoyed. May the Force be with you, but always keep it weird. Bye.